welcome to this week's episode of Winged Nation. I'm Ashley Stremme, coming to you from atop the tower here at Volusia Speedway Park. And joining me is my good friend and co-host, Erin Evernham, and she's still in the Concord Studios. Erin, thanks for joining me this week while Steve's on a special assignment somewhere.
Absolutely. You know, I'm always willing to talk sprint cars.
I just wish you were in Florida with me so we could have cocktails like it was Knoxville all over again.
Seriously, we need to make that happen. Next episode, I'm flying down just for Wing Nation.
Right on. So tell me what you've done this off-season. Anything good? I know you're still dealing with some horsepower. How are things going there?
Things are good, but, you know, nothing really related to racing other than we are getting ready to go to Amelia Island, and Ray's getting ready to be inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame. So we have that coming up. But finally moved into our new house, which was chaos, which anyone who is moving or building a new house knows. And yes, still working with ponies, and I am an official pony mom. How about you? How's baby Steele doing?
He is fabulous. Now, Erin, I've got to ask, because, you know, now that I have a kid going up, I don't want to be that mom. So being a pony mom, like, are you the girl that's like, are you a T-ball dad, I guess, essentially? Is that a pony mom?
Okay, so pony moms are a little bit more like dance moms, and I'm not really that. However, it's hard not to get dragged into it because you got to defend yourself and you got to defend your kid. However, Kate's playing basketball right now, and I am the mom I never thought I would be. There was a girl defending her this past Saturday, and like Kate didn't even have the ball, and the girl is like whacking her in the face, and I was literally yelling back, "Kate, push her back, push her back." And Ray was like, "You don't say that." I'm like, I did. I just did. So yes, I am the T-ball dad. I might end up on the local news.
Love it. Well, this season is about to get started. We are recording this early. I am at Volusia Speedway Park, but cars have not hit the track yet. But so we're going to tee you up. We're not going to talk about racing just yet because nothing's really happened yet. But we are catching up with Brad Sweet. So stick with us. We'll be back with more from the reigning champion here in just a moment on Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit.
The Outlaws are headed back to the Pacific Northwest. Join us for 3 action-packed nights of racing August 31st, September 1st and 2nd at Skagit Speedway when the World of Outlaw NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars return for the Sage Fruit Skagit Nationals. Kickoff for the Sage Fruit Skagit Nationals begins Wednesday, August 30th with a pre-race party, live band, Sage Fruit apple giveaways, and more. Then catch Donnie Schatz and the rest of the World of Outlaws as they take on Washington's best sprint car drivers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Details at SkagitSpeedway.com.
Welcome back. You're watching Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit. Joining us now is the reigning World of Outlaws champion, going for the drive for 5. It is a Brad Sweet. Brad, obviously we're recording this early in the week, so we have yet to hit track here at Volusia Speedway. But what are your goals? What are your predictions for 2023? What do you want to see happen this year?
Yeah, it's obviously we've had a good run with our Napa Auto Parts number 49 team at Casey Kane Racing. So obvious goals are to keep the drive for 5 alive and try to get a 5th consecutive championship. But there's things that we didn't accomplish last year that we need to feel like we need to do better as a race team. We didn't get as many wins as we wanted to, and we didn't win any of the big races. So it's been a few years since we've been able to get one of the crown jewels. So that's definitely a priority for any race team is to try to win the biggest races. And Knoxville Nationals, Kings Royal, there's $1 million race, and obviously at Houston's $250,000. And then there's some other big races that are around the country that we want to win as well. So there's a lot of big money on the line for sprint car racing, and we don't necessarily want to get caught up in just chasing points, so to speak. So we really want to focus on winning races, and then obviously if you're winning, I think the points, the championships will take care of themselves.
Brad, the last time we spoke with you at the end of 2022, you were a little undecided about if you were going to return with the World of Outlaws or where you were headed. And without getting into the nitty-gritty of the details, how did the decision come about to do the drive for 5, to go for one more year?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of, behind-the-scenes discussions and things. When we announced the High Limit Sprint Car Tour, our intentions with that tour was to never alter anything with the World of Outlaws, and that's the reason why we did, the 12 midweek shows, is so that we could still contend for a World of Outlaw championship. So, that was always something that we never wanted to mess with. We enjoy, the competition with inside the World of Outlaw group. I mean, there's a lot of great teams, a lot of great drivers, and we certainly don't want to mess with that and didn't want to mess that up and do anything. So there was, once, I think there was a little bit of give and take from the World of Outlaws. Obviously, it's not as much as, we'd hope, but you still have to look at everything as a business. And, right now with Napa Auto Parts and, what our team's capable of, it made the most sense to, to commit to trying to win another championship. And you never know what's going to happen through a year. There's a lot of things that can happen. So we're just going to go out and race as much as we possibly can where the rules allow us. But, I definitely certainly want to run, as many high limit races as I can. I think there's a lot of good money on the line on those middle of the weeks. And, when I'm not running the high limit races, I'll still be there, helping the series grow and hopefully we can have a good season, first season with the high limit series as well.
Brad, you're always calm, cool, and collected. Do you put pressure on yourself, especially with this drive for 5? Obviously, trying to stay on top and be a 5th-time consecutive champion. Do you put pressure on yourself and then throwing these high limit races in? Is that kind of more fun for you because it's not, it's still your job, but it's obviously not the ultimate goal?
Yeah, certainly I think that was what was kind of fun about doing the high limit stuff in the middle of the week is it's kind of a mini series that's supposed to be something that you can maybe try something a little different with your race car, or, you can maybe take a little bit more risk with, and, there's a lot of money on the line and it's kind of all or nothing, so to speak. So yeah, it's definitely a different feel whenever you go to anything that's not a World of Outlaw race. I feel like when you start, really the points start to become such a factor, and the group that we're racing with, there's not a lot of room for mistakes or DNFs or anything like that. So every night is super meaningful. Even though we race 85 nights, it seems like every night matters a lot. So it's certainly a little bit different feel. But as far as pressure now for me, I don't really feel like I have anything, necessarily to prove. Of course we want to win. We're accustomed to winning, and when you're on top of the mountain, like I've always said, you never really want to get off. So, but pressure, I just don't feel the same pressure, that I had the last few years. I feel really satisfied with what we've been able to do. And, I think, I just really want to get out there and focus on, winning races and, especially the feeling of winning those crown jewel races. I certainly miss that feeling.
Brad, speaking of that, about going into 2023, looking to win more races, win some of the bigger races, how do you approach things differently than last year? Obviously, you're super consistent and you want to get another championship. Is there anything you are thinking or planning to do different to try to get those wins?
Yeah, I think just being more aggressive with our race car, the willingness to maybe step outside the box and, knowing that you could have a few more off nights, but chasing something that maybe could pay off in the long run as far as, picking up wins. I think when you're point racing, you're very conservative in your decision making and you don't necessarily take the risks that some of the other teams are willing to take. And I think that's why you see guys, fall behind a little bit, and maybe the win column, there's other guys out there that just have less to lose and they're trying more with the race car and they can hit on something. And when a guy hits on something, which we have in the past, it certainly, will pay dividends, but you do have to sacrifice, nights and learning to maybe accomplish that. So that's what's probably different about, racing for points is your decision is, the less risky, but, your reward is a championship and maybe not as many wins.
Obviously, Brad, that new 2023 scheme on that Napa Auto Parts car is pretty mint. I love all the yellow. Do you get to have any say in that? Do you get to help, kind of decide with Napa what the car looks like each and every year?
Just a little bit. Yeah, we have great designers at Kane Screen Print in-house. So what we kind of do every year is just let them each do 2 or 3 designs, and then we kind of pass it around amongst the group. And it seems like one always starts to stand out. And this year, the car that we chose was pretty. We all kind of agreed that was the best looking car. And you want just enough change, year to year, so that it's, people notice it, and, obviously you gotta make sure that Napa and their branding is well represented, and that they're happy with it as well. So, yeah, it's a lot of factors go into it, but luckily enough, I've been around long enough that I get somewhat of a say, but I still would probably get, outvoted, if I like something that the group did. So luckily for me that everybody kind of liked the same paint scheme this year.
Awesome. Love it. Guys, stick around. We'll be back with more Bread Sweet right after the break here on Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit.
So how's that new Mahindra tractor, Tony?
To be honest, Chase, there's nothing more satisfying than working my land with this Mahindra. Well, nothing outside of being Rookie of the Year, winning 62 races, 3 Cup Series championships, securing dozens of sponsorship deals, getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, getting married to a wonderful woman, owning a racing team, hanging out in my trophy room, awesome stuff.
Yeah, what? Can't hear you.
Mahindra, the official tractor of Tough and Stewart Haas Racing.
We're back here watching Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit. Still catching up with Brad Sweet here. Brad, we've talked about World of Outlaws. We've talked about high limits, and you kind of hit on it, and I want to kind of pick your brain about it. So obviously with the high limits deal, you're not running for points. Is that where you're going to kind of try to throw the kitchen sink, if you will, at a race car, try to find new setups, try to find speed? Because testing isn't something you do in sprint car racing.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously easy, point for us would be to try more stuff there. But the high limit races that we're going to be going to with our team are, 50,000 to win races. And, so you're going to definitely be, more willing to try stuff though on those nights. And then obviously, we'll be going for $1 million at Eldora. So everything that we'll be doing will be pretty high intensity, outside of the World of Outlaws. But certainly, that's a place and kind of one of the reasons why, we would have liked to run, more high limit races is an opportunity to, try some more things with our race car. But like I stated, I really think, outlaw races, we'll be more willing to, try things this year and less concerned about the points.
Speaking of a little bit less pressure, I saw that you spent a little time down under over the off season. Talk about that and what that opportunity gives you as a driver to race over there. That's not racing for World of Outlaw points. It's just kind of a fun experience. I saw that you took your family. Talk about your time down there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Australia a lot. I've missed it there for a few years, obviously with COVID and things that happened. I just didn't go for a few years, but it was really nice to get back, and the weather was great. It was, obviously my daughter's 5, so it was, the flight wasn't so bad with her. She actually did a really good job on the flight. We were concerned, but yeah, we had fun. We went to the beach, we went to the Australia Zoo. It was nice to get out of the winter here and into the summer there. And then the racing was great. The Classic at Warrnambool is a great event. The fans over there are just so passionate right now, and the atmosphere was really, really good. And I heard a lot of things about the track not racing well and a lot of different things, but I really enjoyed the racing over there. I thought the racing was really, really good. I thought if you had a good car, you were going to be in contention to win. And they have some different tire situations over there with American racers versus Hoosiers versus different things, and I think that brings a lot to the table. You got to make a lot of decisions, and you got to know when to do the right thing. And, I kind of enjoyed it. I think there's some things that are maybe even a little bit better than what we got going on over here.
What's it like in Australia, versus what you have here in the States?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit different. At the end of the day, I mean, it's still really similar cars and, same concept. It's a sprint car, it's the same engines, same chassis manufacturers, a lot of the same stuff is there. Their tire situation's a little different. Their wing rules are a little different, which changes the racing quite a bit. And then just their procedural type stuff, their formats, sometimes you shake your head a little bit not because they're wrong, but it's just because that we're used to a certain way and they're used to a certain way. So you just have to get used to it and embrace it. I've been going long enough that I know that you're always going to shake your head once or twice at some of the format type stuff that happens. There's just situational stuff that we're not used to that doesn't necessarily happen here. But at the end of the day, getting in the car and racing is very similar. But like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought the competition, I think, is underrated. I think there's guys over there that you've never heard of. You'll be battling with, and you didn't even realize, who they were. But there's a lot of talent there, and they're certainly good at their little racetrack that are very unique, and their package is a little different. So it makes the competition super, super tough.
Brad, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you about seeing your championship car from last year in the Brumos collection. Now, I do a little bit of the whole sports car world with Ray, and we saw the Brumos collection years ago. It's unbelievable. And when I followed them on Instagram, I saw they posted that they've got your car. I love that. I thought it was really neat. It was kind of worlds colliding. How'd that come about, and were you there for that unveiling?
Yeah, it's a great question. I honestly hadn't heard of the Brumos collection. Casey mentioned that there was a gentleman down here in Florida that has a really cool car collection that wanted to, potentially have a Napa championship car, if he could, and add it to his collection. And this conversation probably started last year, but it didn't work out because the car that we won the championship with or ended the year with only had a few nights, and we were going to start the next season. However, this year we ended with a car that had 30-something nights on it. And so Casey gave Mr. Davis, a call that owns the Brumos collection. And, they were able to do a deal. And so now the car that came off the track at Charlotte, basically as it came off the track, is now part of the Brumos collection. And obviously now that I've seen it, got to walk through it and meet Mr. Davis and the whole crew that runs that beautiful car collection. It's just an honor, really. I mean, to see my car in there with cars that AJ Foyt drove, and there's so many different cars, and old cars and new cars and sports cars and Indy cars and sprint cars, and just so much history there. And it's just beautiful. It's state of the art. So to think that my championship car, is in that same collection and is in a good spot for a long, long time, I think it's pretty special.
Just a guy who has a really cool car collection. I love it. That's awesome. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and good luck. I'm sure we'll be talking to you later this season.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. And obviously, I hope I talk to you many times this season.
No doubt. Awesome. Thank you so much, fans. Stick around. We'll have more after the break here on Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit.
The Outlaws are headed back to the Pacific Northwest. Join us for 3 action-packed nights of racing August 31st, September 1st and 2nd at Skagit Speedway, when the World of Outlaw NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars return for the Sage Fruit Skagit Nationals. Kickoff for the Sage Fruit Skagit Nationals begins Wednesday, August 30th with a pre-race party, live band, Sage Fruit apple giveaways, and more. Then catch Donnie Schatz and the rest of the World of Outlaws as they take on Washington's best sprint car drivers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Details at SkagitSpeedway.com.
You're watching Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit. Erin, I always love catching up with Brad. I know there's a deeper inner part to Brad that's got like a little sass and a little drama, but he's always so buttoned up, so together. And I mean, it proves why he's running for his 5th championship now.
It certainly does. And I love to hear him talk about wanting to win some of the crown jewels again, because Brad has become the guy that's super consistent. Now, I don't know how many top 5s he had last year, top 10s, but he just knows what he needs to do to win a championship. But I can understand where he's coming from, where, he's won Knoxville before. I'm sure he'd like to do that again. The Crown, the King's Royal, some of the bigger races. So it's neat to hear him talk about that. And it is fascinating that he's also one of the promoters of High Limit Series. I think juggling that and running the World of Outlaws and whatever's going on behind the scenes has got to be very interesting.
It's true. And he's talked to us many times about, setting himself up for when he does retire from racing. He's got Silver Dollar Speedway that he's heavily involved with, obviously High Limits. They've got the KKR screen printing. He's doing T-shirts. So he's really got a lot on his plate, and then still trying to focus on running for a 5th championship is pretty impressive. And I'm so upset I didn't get to ask him about the new tire, what his thoughts are and where things are going to be. It's going to be an interesting, week. We've talked about tires for quite some time now. Erin, what is your thoughts on this new tire that Hoosiers bringing to the table?
I always think it's an interesting topic of conversation every year. What the new product that they bring out, because it changes the setups that you've had in your notebook for years. If a tire has a slightly different compound, or even if the sidewall is different, the construction of the tire. So I think it will be fascinating. Sometimes it levels the playing field. It makes everyone go back to the basics and start to learn a whole new way to set up the car for each track. So I think no matter what, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
And we've talked about it, obviously, all this money that is on the line this year. It is really cool what's going on. You've got guys announcing their biggest schedules ever. Guys like Danny Dietrich, Zeb Wise. I mean, Justin Peck had 100 races, I think it was, last year. I mean, these guys are doing a whole lot of racing for a whole lot of money. But that's a whole lot of travel. And Erin, you've done it. I mean, can you imagine running 100 races in a year?
No, my biggest year, I ran 86 races. We were supposed to run 102, but ended up running 86. And I did that once. One time, one and done. No, I would have liked to continue doing it more years, but I feel like it is tough. I mean, you're sacrificing family time. You're sacrificing a lot of things to put your heart and soul into racing. So as a racer, when you're in the thick of it, it's wonderful. But it's still a lot of days on the road, a lot of days in hotels, a lot of days on airplanes. So it's tough. And it'll be interesting to see some of these guys that are running these big of schedules that haven't just followed the World of Outlaws before, haven't done it before, how it affects them by the end of the year.
All right. So the big talk of the year, the Eldora Million, finally for sprint cars. Obviously, there's been 2 for late models now. Erin, I mean, would you wreck Ray to win $1 million?
I know. A few people have mentioned, would you get back behind the seat? And I'm like, or behind the wheel. I'm like, you know what? Gosh, if it hadn't been so long, how cool would that be to race for $1 million? Like, what a great state the sport of sprint car racing is in right now. But I got to ask you a little personal question. I see all this crazy money in the sprint car world. When's it coming to the modified world for you guys?
Girl, you let me know when you know, because we're still struggling here. I'm sitting up here watching all these modifieds come through tech. We're just we're a support division. We know that. But when we're only racing for pennies, it kind of stinks. I know we don't pack the stands. That's what the sprint cars do. So fair enough. But man, we should at least be racing for a few more pennies than we are. But I guess I can't complain because I'm at a dirt track in sunny Florida right now, getting to do what I love as my job. So I'm not complaining too much, but it would be nice knowing that this is probably the largest class across the country is the open wheeled modified division. But of course, they're not as fast. They're not as full. They're not my first love like sprint car racing.
Yeah, I can understand that. What are your thoughts on the state of sprint cars right now with the high limit series coming in, the World of Outlaws schedule? I mean, it seems to me from a distance, again, I'm not right in the thick of it, but it seems like some things are all falling into place to make it work well together.
I do. I think it's great. We talked to Brent Marks last week, and he talked about how he's excited to hit the high limits races and then go to the World of Outlaw races that he probably wouldn't have done in the past. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I think it's great. I just hope there is sustainability when it comes to this money that's being thrown around. But we'll have to catch up more again, Erin, because our time is up. Thanks to Brad Sweet. Erin, thank you for joining me. I'm Ashley Stremme, and caught another episode of Wing Nation presented by Sage Fruit.